Good afternoon. So today is kind of turned into a beach day, so there isn't much to film, but later we have a couple little plans that I'd like to film. So it's probably gonna be one like last video where it's gonna be 2 days or 3 days compiled into one video. And yeah, as I said, today's just been a beach day and it's like really sunny out, so I have the ND filter on, of course. So I get to test that more. And today, everything is it's supposed to be even warmer these next couple days. And today was already pretty hot in my opinion. But I guess that's just how everything goes down here. Some days it's a little cooler, some days it's like 80 degrees, aka Wednesday. I guess we can make today's video talking about the ND filter because I feel like I wanted to make this video yesterday, but I just didn't get around to it. Basically, this is the little ND filter. Basically, it's variable, so that means I can twist it and it'll change the darkness of it, which is great. But I've seen some people say you gotta be careful with the cheaper ones because they will create like different effects and vignetting and stuff, and I haven't had much problems with that one. The only problem I've truly had with it is when I shoot with this lens way wide at 10 millimeters, I'll get vignetting around the edges, but that's just because I had to use these step rings to the ND filter, so you can see like the step rings on the outside, which isn't a big deal. Alright, we're back home after that fun spring break adventure you guys saw from the sequences and stuff at the beginning. And today I want to talk about the ND filter just because I got to use it a lot down. Because obviously it was bright and sunny and you want to shoot your aperture as wide open as possible to try to get some sort of depth of field. Which in my personal opinion honestly seemed to kind of be a waste because this lens in general doesn't give you the best depth of field just because it's so wide. And it's only an f4.5. So you're not going to get that much depth of field anyway, so it's not going to look different as opposed to if you're using like f22 with this lens. But with this lens, as you guys can see, it gives decent depth of field. I'm using f4. So it would make sense to kind of use an ND filter for this lens outside because you still would get some depth of field, and that's kind of the reason you'd want to have an ND filter, just so you can open up your aperture so much wider. But this specific ND filter was 27 bucks, and normally you see professional ND filters ranging from, you know, $100 to maybe $400. So what do you lose in terms of quality with something so cheap like this? Well, honestly, from what I can tell, not a whole lot. You don't really get that much vignetting. I mean, as I talked about with this lens, you do get some just because it's so wide and I have to use step rings. But if you put this on a 77mm lens, you don't get any vignetting if you're shooting at like 18mm. And it looks really well. It's really sharp. It doesn't soften up your image much with low quality glass. It's really impressive. The colors coming out of it are pretty good. I don't really notice much of a difference if I put this on as opposed to just shooting normal. And now you might be thinking, why did I buy such a big filter for, you know, the two lenses that I have that are both relatively small? Well, that's because I want to save up this summer because I'll be working again. I want to save up for a 17 to 55 2.8 lens from Canon, and that's a 77mm lens. And that lens I anticipate making my main daily driver for outside cinematic shooting and just things like that. I mean, obviously this lens is still much better for vlogging just because it's so much wider and it's still small and light. And that lens is a bigger, heavier lens, definitely built for more professional use. So it would work great for getting cinematic shots, and obviously with cinematic shots, you want that depth of field, so this ND filter would definitely come in handy. And another reason I actually bought this one, just because it's a variable filter, so basically I can spin it, as you guys can see, it gets brighter. I can spin it this way and it gets darker. That means I can change the amount of light being let into the camera with this filter. Now, some things I've heard people say that are a problem with these cheaper filters is because there's two layers of glass and they rotate to make this darker feel, is that you can get some weird vignetting. And I will admit, if you twist this thing a certain way, you will get like a dark spot down the middle of it. That's only if you shoot it at the maximum darkness. And that's only for using like long exposure where you need to have as little light coming into the camera as possible. But other than that, just for basic use like vlogging and things like that, it works really well. And it does get really dark. It actually gets darker than you really need for if you're shooting out in a bright sunny day. So that's good, as I said, if you want to expand into that long exposure. But if you're just using it for video, then it works fine. And it does go to a pretty minimum darkness. So if you don't need that much ND, you don't have to really crank up your ISO. You can just kind of twist this a little bit. It's just a slight darkening for your camera if there's just that little bit too much light. Like, I'm still trying to comprehend how this was $27 just because it is so good. And I've seen so many great reviews for it on things like Amazon. I've seen many great sample images taken with this filter. filter, and now that I've used it down there in Myrtle Beach for vlogging and stuff, I can definitely say that it is a great filter. For if you're just starting out and you just kind of need an ND filter, I would recommend picking up some step rings. These are the ones that I use for my vlogging lens. Basically, it's a 77 to 72, and then that's 72 to 67. And if you don't know what these numbers mean, basically it's the thread size of your lens. So this lens right here is a 58mm thread size. This one's a 67. In order to put a big filter like this on these lenses, you have to have these special rings to adapt it to it. You can get these pretty cheap. I got a pack that goes from like 82 to like 39 for like 10 bucks. They're nice high quality metal ones. They twist together, they untwist, things like this. They work great, and they're very sturdy too, so you don't have to worry about them randomly unscrewing in the middle of filming. But yeah, I'll put a link for this ND filter down in the description below. Thank you all for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.